Hello, 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 and welcome. I am indeed the Texarcist, Shane Moore, here with the Texarcist Live podcast. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Tonight, we will be talking about DNA, amino acids, chromosomes, and the Hebrew alphabet. And how the Hebrew alphabet, the very letters, the 22 letters that make up the Hebrew alphabet, how they relate to and are linked to our very DNA, the amino acids within our bodies, and the chromosomes, and much, much more. Could it be that the Hebrew letters hold secrets that are yet to be discovered? There are some who have this knowledge, and undoubtedly they use it. It is power. I mean, knowledge is power, and it depends on what knowledge you have and how you use it. One thing is with the Hebrew alphabet, the letters themselves, each letter can be, there have been books and volumes of books that have been written about each Hebrew letter. There's more than meets the eye there. It's almost a hyper-dimensional language, the Hebrew language. And it's you can't take it at face value. Excuse me. What you have to do is go back, and there's a small book that was written. It was at one time, well, it was throughout history, it was passed on as oral tradition, oral teaching. Nothing was ever written down until around 1400s, maybe 1300s. There was a book that was written that was called the Book of Formation, or the Book of Creation. It is called the Sefer Yetzirah, and it gives an account of the creation of the world, the birth of man, the destruction and recreation, and it goes on and on and on. Very, very fascinating, and possibly it's the key that can unlock the mysteries of our very DNA and possibly the destiny of each and every one of us. So, relax, get something to drink, and kick back, and we will have a fascinating episode of the Texarcist Live podcast tonight. I'll take a short break and allow listeners who wish to join our live chat to do so. Also, you may call in to the show at 903-956-0055. Outside the U.S., 00 plus 1 903-956-0055. Don't go anywhere. I will be back in 3 minutes.
Still hellhounds on my trail. Stay awake, fail. One more step alone on my own. Hope is fading on this road again. Never know when it will be the end. All my friends have all just given up, but remember when I said count to 10. This is not the end. Once again, it's just beginning. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting. Go into the light, leave behind the night. Eyes can barely see, I barely breathe before it's over. Hellhounds on my trail, stay awake, fail. One more step alone on my own. Hope is fading. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting. On this road again, never know when it will be the end. All my friends have all just given up, but remember when I said count to 10. This is not the end. Once again, it's just beginning. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting. I'm going down someday before I forget who I am. I wanna be still bigger, still stronger, still fighting.
And I am back. Well, I hope everyone had a good weekend and a terrific Monday, but we all know that Mondays tend to be a little rough. So I hope you're all doing well, and thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Tonight, we will get into the mystical, the factual, and the theoretical, all clumped into one. This is going to be, we're going to be all over the place, really, talking about biology and the Hebrew alphabet. We're talking about the Bible. Now, this is not going to be a religious show. It's not going to be a religious episode or anything like that. Those of you that know me, I'm not religious. I am spiritual, but I'm not religious. So you don't have to worry about that. I'm not going to be preaching to anyone. The way I see it, truth need not scream. Truth doesn't have to pressure you. You simply, you accept it or you reject it. But you know it. You know when you experience truth. And I talked about that last night on the podcast. But definitely, there's a lot of information that when you put it together by itself, hey Elaine, glad you're here. When you put it together, it's by itself, it's very strange. It's like, wow, what's this? I don't really understand what this is. Well, by itself, you wouldn't understand. No one would. But when you start to put the pieces together, and here and there, we're talking about the Kabbalah, we're talking about ancient texts that were written a long time ago, and even before they were written, like I said, they were passed down orally. Nothing was written until, say, the 1300s, 1400s, something like that. Now, it has been said that the Knights Templar, that when they went to the Holy Land, supposedly to fight in the Crusades against the Muslims, there were 9 knights, 9 French knights that supposedly went to Jerusalem to protect travelers from being robbed, being accosted by thieves, bandits, whatever. When you think about that, that is a ludicrous idea that 9 men could protect travelers. I mean, there's no way. You would have to have an army. Well, you would have to have a lot more than 9 men. These 9 knights, they sold everything they had, or they gave it away, and went to Jerusalem, and they made their headquarters in where the legendary Temple of Solomon once stood. And I believe it was in the stables of Solomon's Temple where they made their headquarters. And needless to say, there was no travelers that were protected. The 9 knights were too busy excavating, digging, searching. They were looking for something, and it was years, maybe even, I'm not sure, but it was 9 years later. All of a sudden, they're gone. They go back to Europe, and many say that they found the Holy Grail. Now, when I talk about the Bible, and I talk about it being a book of, or a record of, a lot of it is metaphorical. You cannot take it literally. If you do, you're going to be, well, this is like a fairy tale. And I've had people tell me that. And they have actually turned away from anything that has to do with the Bible. When you mention Bible, they're like, oh man, I'm out of here, And to some extent, believe it or not, I'm the same way. Because when people start talking about the Bible, and they start talking about everything literally, I'll be the first one to be out of there. I'll just close off, because that's someone that hasn't paid their dues, so to speak. They haven't studied. They haven't really applied themselves to search. And the Bible itself is truth. I'm not saying that because it's metaphorical, that since most of it, well, I'll say a lot of it is metaphorical. I'm not saying that it's not true. It's very true. It's true. It's truth. Plain and simple. It's truth. But you have to search for it. It's not found on the surface. I mean, you can read the words, and that's not where it's found. It's found deeper. There's a deeper meaning. And these 9 knights, it was said, found the Holy Grail. And many people say, well, the Holy Grail is what Jesus drank from at the Last Supper. It's a cup. It's and I find it amusing that there are churches all over the world, and they all have the original Holy Grail. It's like, how can this cup be in so many different places and it be the real cup, So, that tells you that it's not a cup. It's not something that, really think about that. Even if it was a cup, even if Jesus drank out of that cup, what would be the power that would have? What would that hold in itself? Not much. Not much. And you couldn't prove that Jesus drank from that. I mean, come on. So, these knights, these men, very, very rich, powerful men, they didn't spend all that time. They didn't give away everything they had for a cup. They were searching for something much more powerful than a literal cup. And many say that what they found were documents, information, scripture, whatever, that had been written and hidden, that was where we get our information as far as the Kabbalah and this that I'm talking about, the book of creation, the book of formation. And it's like, wow, how powerful is that? It's so powerful that we can't even comprehend it. Many people, they think that Einstein, they think that Oppenheimer, that Tesla, that they read science books and books on science and things like that. They did not read those books. Einstein's wife, those close to Tesla, Oppenheimer, those close to these men that were far more advanced than most. They read the ancient texts, such as the Kabbalah, such as the Vedic scriptures. Very, very ancient. I think that the Vedic scriptures are something like 6,000 years old. It talks about ships in the air. It describes what has to be nuclear war, and that's just it. That's where Einstein, Oppenheimer, and these great minds, that's where they got the idea. That's where they got the blueprints on the structure of the atom and how it could be split and matter itself. Now, what is so amazing about the Kabbalah, and I'm not talking about people that wear the red piece of string around their wrist like Madonna and all that. I'm not talking about that kind of Kabbalah. I'm talking about the true Kabbalah. And I talked to a listener this morning, and we were talking about the Kabbalah. We were talking about power, and I told her, I said it would be like taking a key or taking a piece of wire and jamming it into a 110 outlet. You get shocked. It hurts. It definitely wakes you up. Okay, that would be like messing around with science, just plain simple science. With the Kabbalah, and I'll explain why, with the Kabbalah, the rule of Judaism, and I believe that it still stands to this day, that men are not taught the Kabbalah, the secrets of the Kabbalah, until they are at least 40 years old. They must be of sound mind, and they must be spiritual and have show the characteristics, the traits that they're good and not evil, that their mindset is for the benefit and the help and helping of mankind and not destroying mankind. Because with the Kabbalah, there's the good, and then there's the bad. Now, is it good or bad? No, it just is. It's how one uses it. It's how one uses it. So, there again, we're brought back to the ball's in our court. And what I'm talking about is choice. Wow. Man. Free will. Choice. It's up to you on how you use anything. And with the Kabbalah, it is so powerful that men, like I said, had to be 40 years old, at least 40 years old. They had to show that they could maintain a family, a wife, children, and show tremendous spiritual fortitude and knowledge. And even then, there were some who studied the Kabbalah, and it was too much for them. They went insane, literally. Some, they literally lost their mind. And that's frightening. That is really, really scary. That, something can be that powerful that it's certainly... okay, Elaine. Excuse me. You had to reboot. I tell you, I don't know what the deal is, but it's been running very, very slow today. The internet's been running slow today. I have no idea what's going on, but anyway, I'm glad that you're back and that you rebooted successfully. But what it is in itself is the Kabbalah teaches that there is it actually teaches get this, quantum physics. It is quantum mechanics, and it gets into the very nature of subatomic particles, quanta, quarks. Of course, it's not called that in the Kabbalah, but you understand what I'm saying. It's definitely described, and so it describes not only how everything is made of atoms and subatomic particles, but it also teaches that that it's when you look at an atom, okay, you have the proton, the neutron, the electron. They're all moving so fast. You have these, they're just moving so fast that atom looks like it's, solid. Because they're zooming, just boom, 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 just bomb, nonstop. Just lightning speed. But when you really, really get down to the bare bones, you find out that that the truth is 99.99% of an atom is empty. It's not there. Okay, why do you think Einstein, or where do you think Einstein got his discovery? And he discovered it. It's not something that he invented. It was already there. The idea, the knowledge was already there. He just rediscovered it. I said discovered. He rediscovered it. And just to make a long story short, a long explanation short, I'll just, plain and simple. He said that there could never be a test that, or an experiment that could be performed and it not be compromised. He said it would be tainted, it would be ruined. And why is that? He says because the very fact that someone is performing the experiment or performing the test, they are observing it. And just by observing it, just by giving it, and when I say it, I'm talking about the particles and the waves. I mean, everything is vibration. Everything's frequency. Just by giving it your attention, your consciousness compromises the experiment. What I'm saying is you affect the outcome of the experiment, whether you know it or not. And look up the double slit experiment where they fired subatomic particles through or at this this steel like door or whatever that had two slits in it. And when the particles went through those slits, it was very, very strange because some of those particles turned into waves. And people are like, whoa, how did that happen? What happened? Well, it's just like, look at it this way. When, excuse me, when you are given a choice, you have endless possibilities. Yeah, but, I mean, they're all there. I mean, say you can walk into your living room. Okay? Well, you choose to sit on the couch. But before you make that choice, you could stand on your head. Thank you, Elaine. You are wonderful. She's great. Always just throws these links in for everyone. Definitely need to keep Elaine on your Christmas list. Thank you, Elaine. And so you can walk into your living room. You can sit on your couch. You can sit on the floor. You can stand on your head. You can not walk into your living room. You can do anything. But when you choose, and please do this, write in big letters, choice. Because choice is everything. Choice is everything. And people say, well, I'm not going to choose. I'm just not going to choose. You know what? You just did. You cannot escape it. It is inevitable. I sound like Agent Smith on The Matrix. It is inevitable. And it is. You cannot escape choosing. And when you choose not to choose, you just chose. I mean, isn't that, that's crazy, but it's the truth. Choice, free will. People say, well, I don't believe in free will. Well, you may not believe that poison will kill you, but it will, whether you believe it or not. So, what am I saying? How does this tie into the Hebrew alphabet? Our very DNA, our amino acids, our chromosomes, and much, much more. Well, it's just this, is we are made of atoms, correct? Subatomic particles. Our DNA is made of the four, what was it? A, T, G, C, and then the RNA is A, T, and it has one change, one difference, and let me pull that up real quick because it's very, very fascinating. Let's see, RNA and DNA. Differences. They both have nucleotides that, I'll just read this. Structurally, DNA and RNA are nearly identical. As mentioned earlier, which this is the article, however, there are three fundamental differences that account for the very different functions of the two molecules. RNA has a ribose sugar instead of a deoxyribose sugar like DNA. RNA nucleotides have a uracil base instead of thymine. Looks like thymine, but it's thymine. I think. Don't hold me to that. I'm just the messenger. So, what we have is DNA uses the bases adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. RNA uses adenine, uracil, cytosine, and guanine. So, uracil is the difference in between DNA and RNA. Uracil takes the place of the thymine. So, we have the letters A, T, C, G for DNA, for RNA, A, U, C, G. So, thank you, Elaine. Oh, you're wonderful. She's an angel, literally. I don't know where she hides her wings, but yeah, that was cheesy. Anyway, so within DNA is a bioluminescence. It's when things are going good and you're in a great mood and you're happy and people say, you're radiant. You really are. You really are. Because you say hidden very carefully. Yes. You're a sweetheart. But when people say you're radiant or you shine, they're not kidding. I mean, you really do. Why is that? Because your heart, your spirit, the true you, is resonating with, and not only resonating with, it is a part of your DNA. Okay, so look at this. Look at these four nucleotides in both DNA and RNA. Look at them and all their different structures, how they're lined up, and what they do. And this is the shocking thing: is it's literally what geneticists, biologists, those that study DNA, and get this, people that study languages, linguistics, they have determined that our DNA is a language very much like English, to where you can read it if you know the language. If you know how to read it, it definitely is telling something. It is giving a message. It is, for lack of a better word, it's explaining what it is. It's explaining itself. Now, the way that they did that, the way that they discovered that, was they noticed that, much like our languages, not just English, but every language, there's a certain amount of, so like the word "the," okay, it's all over the place. And then you have the single letter words, a, and that's all over the place. But then you apply algorithms to see just where and how these small words, what precedes them and what follows them, and they're like, whoa, this is like a book. I'll say it again. They said this is like a book. This is a message that has been written. Okay? Now, take that and think about what the Bible says as far as the book of life. Hey, Nazreen. Glad you joined us. It's always good to see you. Think about that as far as they said it's like a book that's been written as a message to us, and it took time to rediscover how to read, for the most part, how to read this language. They said it's like a book. Okay? In the Bible, Jesus talks about the book of life. And if their names weren't found written in the book of life, they didn't inherit heaven. They didn't go to heaven. I believe that the book of life is DNA in every one of us. And there has been, studies and research done that proves that in every one of us there are certain similarities in our very DNA. So it's not exactly the same, of course. Now twins, that's different. They have the same DNA. But in every human being, the difference in everyone's DNA is so minute. I mean, it's not this huge difference that you would think. And I don't care if it's a person that's a prince or a pauper. a king or a beggar. They are very, very much the same, written the same way. And how are they written? In code. It's a code. And I know that sounds conspiratorial, it sounds crazy, but what else is written in code? Computer programs. Whoa, here we go. You're like, oh, Shane's talking about the Matrix. Maybe so. Maybe I am. Maybe I might be Neo, for God's sake. I mean, really. You might be listening to Neo right now. I love the Matrix, by the way. And those of you that know me, I love the Matrix. Why? Because I believe that there has never been a movie. That's right, Elaine, we are. That's right. We are machines. We are machines. Thank you for that. And it's so strange because I told my doctor, he's been my doctor for 32 years. I told him it's been about 10 years ago I went to see him, and I was I was sick with bronchitis or something like that. And I said, when I come in and see you, I said, it's just like, it reminds me of taking my truck to the mechanic for a tune-up or to, get it fixed and to get it repaired. And I said, that's what I think about. I said, when I come to see you, like, I said, I know that you're a doctor, and I respect that. I said, but you're very much like a mechanic. And he said, you're right. He says, you're absolutely right. He says, the human body, he says, we have been taught to look at it like, whoa, it's this and that, and it's biological. He said, that's just another word. He said, that's used, that's, thrown around. That just means living. And he says, but, nevertheless, he says the human body, well, animals too, it's a machine. And what he said next was really comforting. He says, with machines, they all break down. I'm like, oh, man, why'd you have to say that, And he says, look around. He says, the more you use a machine, he says, well, not the more you use it, but he says, you use a machine, and he says, and things happen. Certain parts of it wear out and have to be replaced. And then there comes the day when the machine breaks down. And that is what we call death, physical death. But it's like when I talked with him, I said, I don't view that as death. I don't view that as the end. I said, I view it as the machine can't go any further. I said, but I have never really viewed myself as my body. And that's why many of you, whenever I say that I'm immortal, I laugh and you laugh, but I don't really laugh that much because I'm joking, but I'm not joking. Because I'm not talking about that my body's going to be here. I'm going to be here like I am now forever, or that I'm going to live forever in this body. I am immortal, and you are too. your body's going to give out one day. But you will go on. I should have Celine Dion here. Your heart will go on, you know. That'd be great. But it's true. Your heart will go on. Your spirit will go on. You are not your body. You are not your body. You are spirit. The body's just your vehicle that you have to use to get around in this world. Elaine, you say, or our body parts fail. Yep, that's right. You say, do you think we are all predisposed to a certain time with each vessel? Well, yes. Wow, you're knocking the ball out of the park tonight. We're on the same wavelength. That's what I was going to say. Is everybody talks about, well, my birthday, or I was born this day, or, you know, and they celebrate, and there's nothing wrong with that. Every year they celebrate their birthday. But a lot of times, and I learned this being a funeral director and embalmer for 20 plus years, a lot of times that things like that, and I'm not knocking celebrating birthdays, I'm not knocking talking about birthdays, but that's taking your mind off of that. Yes, everyone has a birth date, but that we know, but everyone has, I guess, call it an expiration date that we do not know. And certainly, with your question, do you think we all are all predisposed to a certain time with each vessel? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't make sense a lot of times. It certainly didn't when I was a funeral director, when children, young children, 4 or 5, 8, 9 years old, would, their bodies would give out. And it would, why is that? What's going on? And, well, when they were born, when you were born, when I was born, that, I call it expiration date. You have a date you came into this world, and you have a date that you will leave this world. You will leave the body, I should say. So, and that's something else to think about, is when you were born, you entered the world in your body. Or, that's what's taught. But in my opinion, that's not so. Or that's not so in the conventional way of thinking. The way I see it, in my opinion, we entered the body, and then we entered the world. Because if the body's a vehicle, that's exactly what it is, then at some point our spirit, the true us, had to get into that vehicle. The fetus, and I don't know, I can't tell you what day, I can't tell you if it was, 10 hours after conception or what. I'm good, but I'm not that good. So, but, and it could be, and Elaine, Nazreen, feel free to give me your thoughts. It could be that when we come out of the womb, that we enter that vehicle, the body. Something to think about. Because as long as we're in the womb, we don't really need a vehicle. We have mama. Mama's like a station wagon, load the kids up, Well, I've already got them loaded up. So, but yeah, I believe that it's possible, or it's feasible, that when we're born, when we leave the womb, is when we enter the vehicle. And when that vehicle gives out, or that vehicle is destroyed or incapacitated to where it cannot be repaired, what happens? We leave the vehicle. So if you leave the vehicle, and that's a fact, that you leave the vessel, the tabernacle, whatever you want to call it, then it would also be fair to say that at some point you entered that vehicle. So, but talking about the Hebrew alphabet, the Kabbalah, the Sefer Yetzirah, and I'm probably killing that, but just bear with me. The Book of Formation, the Book of Creation. There are 22 Hebrew letters. 22. As I said, each Hebrew letter is very, very complex. It's like the Hebrew alphabet is, in my opinion, it is a hyper-dimensional language. And I have said this for so long, that if you want to learn about any culture, about anything really, study language. Study the language. And if even the dead languages like Latin, Aramaic, it's amazing at the things that you will discover when you do that. And you'll start to see that when we say foreign language or whatever, it's not really foreign. When you study enough languages, you start to see patterns and everything. And you start to see that, you start to pick up that, I guess, algorithm or whatever. And it's there. It is there. It's undeniable. What's an algorithm? It's an equation. It's a set of equations. What are equations? They're number sequences. Codes. Just think of codes. Now, in Jewish mysticism, it says that when God, the Creator, the Source, gave Moses the law on Mount Sinai, that he gave him the first 5 books of the Bible that we have today. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Okay, now, we all have seen in the movies with Charlton Heston, Moses coming down from the mountain with these two granite rocks, these two granite tablets, and on one is written 5 commandments, and on the other is written another 5. Okay, Moses, tell me what you were doing on that mountain for 40 days and 40 nights, because you were doing something. Because, we're talking about God. We're talking about the Creator, the Source, the Almighty. And you're telling me that it took him 40 days and 40 nights to carve or to engrave 5 commandments on one stone that had to weigh like 300 pounds, and the other, another 5, that always bothered me. I'm like, what's the deal? Well, that's just it. The deal is, and I learned this by reading about Jewish mysticism, the backstory, and it says that when God called Moses up on Mount Sinai, that Moses looked down and he saw what looked like transparent blue sapphire. Transparent blue sapphire. And like the stone, But this was very strange, because it's been said in Jewish legend, Jewish teachings, that God wrote the first 5 books. And as I said before, that would be monumental. That would be wow. There's like 305,000 letters or characters, Hebrew letters, in the first 5 books of the Bible. All right? Now just keep that in mind. But when you take each letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and each letter in each word, each letter by itself tells its own story. It really does. So what does that mean? It means that it is a hyper-dimensional language. It is unlike any other language. It's amazing. I can't even explain it. But there's something about the Hebrew language, and I'm not saying that all other languages are, inferior or whatever. I'm just saying that the Hebrew language, the Hebrew letters, are definitely, there's much more there than meets the eye, and I believe that they're hyper-dimensional. What I mean by that is that we've talked about Geordie Rose talking about CERN and these other dimensions and parallel worlds and everything. That means that where in another parallel reality, another parallel world, whatever, English might not get you by. You might speak English and people are there in that reality going, okay, what's he talking about? But I believe that if you speak Hebrew, That's the language that transcends this dimension and every other dimension. So it would be understood on some level, if not completely understood. And this is something that is amazing, is that J.R.R. Tolkien, that wrote The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all that. People say, wow, I love The Lord of the Rings. I do too. But he was a Christian theologian. I mean, I call him a theologian. I mean, the guy was brilliant as far as spirituality. And in the book, in the movie and the book, okay, you have Gandalf. And he's with the fellowship. This is the Fellowship of the Ring. And they're in the mines. Okay, what does that tell you? They're in the underworld. And something happens, and all of these orcs, and for those of you that haven't read the Lord of the Rings or haven't seen the movie, the orcs are these hybrids, these monster type, and they come out, they're like vampires, they come out, and they're about to tear these good guys apart. And just when you think that they're going to die, you hear something in the background. And these mines are not like very, very small mines. I mean, it's like the cathedrals. I mean, it's huge underground caverns. And this is the movie, but still, just bear with me. And when this sound of this growling or this groaning, and you can hear the footsteps, these orcs, these bad monsters, they freak out and they split. They're gone because of what's coming. And one of the most dramatic scenes is when one of the guys looks at Gandalf and he says, "What is this new devilry?" And Gandalf is like on his staff, and he's like, "Oh, I wish I had never begun this journey." And Ian McKellen plays it so good. I mean, he literally looks just so regretful, so scared. And he says, "It's a Balrog, a demon of the ancient world." Okay, well, what did the guy ask him? He says, "What is this new devilry?" Gandalf says, "It's not new. It's something old." And he says, "It's a Balrog, a demon of the ancient world." He says, "This foe is beyond any of you. Run." So they all start running, and they get to the bridge. And this is something that J.R.R. Tolkien wrote into this, and brilliant. You have Aragorn, the man. Now you have the dwarf, you have the elf, this and that. But you have the man who is going to be the king. He's going to be the king over the earth. And what does he do? He pulls this sword out. And Gandalf, being the guide, he couldn't actually, tell them what to do. Gandalf was there to guide them, but they had to figure things out for themselves. Does that sound familiar? And Gandalf grabs him and he says, "Do as I say. Swords are no more use here." What's he saying? He's saying what I basically said last night, is that those who want to fight or want to revolt, want to, physically use weapons against the powers that be, or want to sue them, or want to take them to court. It's like that's of no use. No use anymore. Yes, why? Because they created the system. So if you take them to court, and I'm talking about the really those who are in power, or those who are in the highest levels of power, you can take them to court, but they own the court. Therefore, you cannot win. And I know that is really not what you want to hear. But it's the truth. And if you disagree with me, please speak up, because we can talk about it. But if you disagree with me, please tell me why. Because I give credit where credit's due. I don't care, who it's to. I will say this. They covered all the bases and then some. They were persistent, and they didn't think in terms of, well, we're going to do this, and 10-year plan, 20-year plan, 30-year plan. No, this was a generational plan, like hundreds and hundreds of years. It's like, family, father to son, mother to daughter. Look at the royal family. It's been passed down. This is how it's going to be done. This is the goal. Just because my body gives out and I, quote unquote, die, does not mean that the mission is going to die. The mission goes on. We will reach the goal, is their mindset. And it has worked very, very well for them. So, but when you look at the media, when you look at the lawmakers, when those who are elected to uphold the law and make the law, when they break the law, there isn't any law. Right? What is there? Chaos. When those who are supposed to uphold the law, when those who enforce the law, when they break the very laws that they were elected and they're paid for, they're paid to enforce, when they break those laws, there really isn't any laws. What is it? It's chaos. It's a fight for survival. And that's going on. So, those that talk about, well, the pharmaceutical industry, They charge so much for medication. They charge astronomical fees when, just like most of you know, the measles, they're back, and things like that. And it's really spreading and all this. Okay, well, when you have certain diseases like that, God forbid the Spanish flu come back, like a tidal wave, you can rest assured that the pharmaceutical companies will jack the prices up on treatment for that, especially if there's an epidemic. I mean, which they're probably praying for one, because what happens? They get just buku rich, even more so overnight. People will, they'll give everything to live. I mean, that's just human nature. So, what I'm saying is it doesn't matter. You say, well, such company, they did this, and they let people die, or they price gouging, whatever you want to call it. Well, you're not going to get very far because the Food and Drug Administration, they're owned by the same people that own the pharmaceutical companies. And that's what I'm saying. A mongoose never goes into the snake den to fight the snake. Why? Because it's not his element. You do that, you're going to lose. You're going to lose, and you're going to lose every time. Am I saying that it is impossible to win? Absolutely not. You're talking to someone who there's always another way. And I'm not putting anybody down. I think it's great that those who speak out and those who want to take action against the injustice, and they want to see justice, I think is great. But the intention is great. The intent is great. But the direction or the way one goes about it is wrong. And I'm just saying that because I don't want to see people do something like that and be led along believing they actually have a chance, like the mongoose in the snake den. It's like, people are patting mongoose on the back, like, yeah, go on in there. Yeah, you'll do fine. I mean, you'll win, And he goes in there and he doesn't come out. Why? Because the snake den's full of snakes. It's dark. He doesn't know what's going on. Draw the snake out to him and fight in his element. And then he wins. But that's the only way. And I hope that made sense. I don't know, kind of rambling. Didn't seem like it did, but I hope you get the gist of what I'm talking about. Elaine, you say, the soul is created before we are in the womb. We are acclimating to the vehicle when we are in the womb, and it is being constructed around us through the host help. That is the conception of energy. Absolutely right. And what did Einstein say about energy? It goes on and on and on. It cannot be destroyed. What is your spirit? Your spirit is energy. And then you say, then when we are born, we are of earthly form, and although our energy is still in the same, due to the soul, we live in the vehicle until our energy changes again. When we die, then our energy goes into the universe. Yes. And it goes into the universe. That's, in my opinion, that's another, heaven is just another term or description of the universe. I believe that heaven is what we make it, with our intentions, with what we do, with our actions and our reactions. But it all goes back to one thing: choice. The choices you make. Choice, choice, choice. Wow. And then you say measles is running rampant. Yeah, I mean, I saw that, and I was like, wow, that's getting bad. And then I saw where smallpox is back, and I'm like, what is going on? I mean, smallpox? That's bad. Very bad. Not good at all. You say heaven is an earthly term for mortals to better understand. Right. And, of course, we're not saying that we're not putting anybody down. We're not at all. I mean, I use the term heaven all the time. But just like Jesus says, don't look for heaven here or there. He says, don't you understand? The kingdom of heaven is within you. Well, what is within you? Your spirit, your soul. What determines your soul, if it's good or bad? The choices you make. The choices you make. But anyway, going to take the God particle. Yep. The elusive Higgs boson. And they found it, but it's not good enough. They're pressing forward for something else. And why is that? Because they want that power. They don't want to learn about the Creator, the Source, God, whatever. They want to be God. They want to be creators. They want to be the Source. And when we talk about the book of creation, we talk about the Kabbalah, what it talks about is it talks about the manipulation. It's talking about manipulating reality itself at the subatomic level. And how's that done? By consciousness. You see how that proves itself. And in my opinion, it has to be truth since it proves itself. Einstein said, you can never have an experiment, never have anything that is not compromised, because the mere fact that you're observing it changes it. And he went so far as to say, in his special theory of relativity is that if no one is observing something, like a wall, a couch, a car, if no one's observing it, It's not there. It doesn't exist. I know it's crazy. But then he basically says, but when it's observed, it's there. What does that mean? Your mind makes it real. You create reality. That's the only explanation there is. And when you think about how atoms are 99.99% empty space, there you go. It's like that wall or that couch, that car is made up of 99.99% empty space. What makes it solid? What gives it solidity? You do. When you observe it. Because 99.99%, it's not there. And when you get that much not there, it's not there. But your mind makes it real. AKA, you create it. The observer creates it. So, with the Kabbalah, and this is explained in the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, the book of formation, is just that. Is that reality can be manipulated by consciousness, by thought, by focused intent. Also known as quote-unquote magic. Nothing magic about it. Nothing supernatural about it. It's just natural. A natural thing that many people don't understand. Okay, Elaine, good night and sweet dreams to you too. Thank you for your help tonight. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. And when I come back, I'm going to go through the book of formation and talk about the Kabbalah and how there's 22 Hebrew letters that correlate with 22 amino acids that correlate with the 22 chromosomes and more. So don't go anywhere, and I will be right back. 3 minutes.
I've seen those faces, I've heard all the lies, but you ain't gazing on someone in denial. 'Cause you want dollar bills right now, but you gotta work real hard. I know you want it to be easy, so let your guard down. And I said, something knocked you out. You felt your limitations and filled your mind with doubt. You wanna stay chill right now and don't let your eyes off the prize. I know you want it to be easy, so let your guard down. And I say, And I said, see it in your mind, trust that, have what it takes inside, 'cause you can make it too. If not says who, yeah, you can make it too. If not says who, you can make it. If not says who, yeah, you can make it too. If not says who, you can make it.
And I'm back. Okay. We're just going to take about 20 minutes and talk about the book of formation and the amino acids and the chromosomes and how that the Hebrew alphabet correlates to our very DNA. Let me find my notes here. Okay, DNA is a code for amino acids, which are the building blocks of protein. It happens that there are 22 amino acids in humans and 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. That set many people wondering if there might be something tantalizing written into the human genome. And it, like I said, they discovered that it's written like a book. It's definitely a message, but it's written in code. So, it says, could the Creator have signed human DNA? It would certainly be amazing if that was so. Because even computer programmers, when they write the code to a program, there's, some, they put little things in there telling who the author is, who wrote it. Could that be the case with the creator of, if you want to call God the creator, if you want to call the source, I prefer the source, because what we experience as life in this world, it had to come from a source, correct? Everything, the universe, everything had to come from a source. And if something is created, then there had to be a creator. And let's face it, you don't have things, we were talking about the human body being a machine. The same thing could be applied to the universe itself and the world, the earth, the solar system. It's all a machine. It all works on cycles, and it's like invisible sprockets, and it definitely is a system, and it works like a machine. So if there might be something written into the human genome, what might it be? What if the Creator signed it, a mark of ownership A sneaky surprise for the human race. Wow, wouldn't that be something? So, what we have here is we have this group downloaded the amino acid sequences for the first half dozen genes on each of the 23 chromosomes. Now, we have 22 chromosomes, but the 23rd is the gender chromosomes. You're either going to have X or Y, male or female. So they downloaded the amino acid sequences for the first half dozen genes on each of the 23 chromosomes, including the X and Y, the sex chromosomes, and creating a computer program to handle the task. That is to read the code, the amino acids, and what meaning they had in Hebrew. So they decided to start small, assuming that if the Creator had signed the DNA in some way, he would presumably have used his name as a signature, or at least an abbreviation of it. So they set about examining the letter sequences for about a dozen common names of the Creator found in the Bible. And they found high numbers all through the DNA that they sampled. Now, do I have proof of this? No. I'm just putting it out there. You can make up your own mind. I will even post the link to this. It's titled "God in DNA. Could God have signed human DNA?" So, but it says that it is it's almost an exercise in solving cryptography. It's, solving the clues, the deciphering the cipher. But this says it was very straightforward. We created a correspondence between each of the amino acids and its equivalent Hebrew letter by matching the most common amino acid found in the human body with the most commonly used letter in the Hebrew alphabet, running down the list from most to least common. And then what they found had a lot to do with the structure and grammar of the Hebrew language itself, almost as if it were made for the exercise. Trying the same correspondence in English and Latin yielded almost nothing in comparison, which is what I said as far as I believe that Hebrew is a type of hyperdimensional language of many, many, probably endless layers. And that's why that I believe that it's hyperdimensional, is because it would be understood in any dimension where English and Latin would not be. So what did they find? They found that abbreviations or full versions of the 14 most common names of the Creator, most of them found in the Hebrew Scriptures, appeared about 500,000 times in each human cell. I'll say that again. The 14 most common names of the Creator, most of them found in Hebrew Scriptures, appeared about 500,000 times, 500,000 times, in each human cell. Trillions of times. 500,000 times 10 trillion in the human body. We appear to be saturated with the names of the Creator. or at least the signature. One of the most common four-letter words in the genes was YHWH, which is the consonants are for Yahweh, and it appeared 500 times in each cell. Its common abbreviation, YH, appeared 35,000 times. It seems the human DNA is thoroughly initialed. We also found YY is the predominant message in the DNA. YY is a common Hebrew prayer book abbreviation for Adonai, which means Lord, and is a kind of assertion that God exists. Interestingly, the Hebrew name for Satan, STN, never appeared in the code. We also found positive statements about God outnumbered negative ones, 2-1. We decided to try the same exercise on non-human DNA to see if names of the Creator showed up there too. They did. We found the most important name of God, YHWH, appeared almost 3 times more often in humans, as if the Creator had a special relationship with us, but also seemed to have written the name into every living thing. So we decided to look for simple words and even phrases because Hebrew is a very condensed language. Numerous short, meaningful phrases appeared in a typical gene. It meant we needed more than a nodding acquaintance with Hebrew grammar to check them, but they were mostly not long, so we didn't need to be a scholar. The phrases we found are listed. Using Hebrew, the phrases divide into number 1, Yah, Y-A-H, is very life. 2, a light heart is like a garden. Now, this is what's written in the DNA, in the amino acids, and then 3. This is funny, but it says it's grossly unfair to abhor baldness. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know. I have a hard time with that last one. But anyway, it says the process becomes progressively more technical and detailed. So you may opt out when you've had enough. It says where we use the word genome, we mean that part of the human DNA strand containing genes, which amounts to only 2% of the DNA. Junk DNA refers to the balance of 98% of DNA, or I'd say, 3% is what the genome is made of, and then 97% is what they call junk DNA, or it's also known as dark matter, which I said a few days ago that it's amazing that we have the universe and only 3% of the universe is visible. 97% of the universe is dark matter. So, you've heard the term as above, so below. As below, so above. I mean, it's like a blueprint, like a reflection. So could it be, with these matching percentages, could it be somehow, some way that the universe is within us and we are within the universe? Could it be that your consciousness, just like you observing life, could it be that your consciousness creates the universe? I mean, imagine the power that you would feel if you found out with beyond a shadow of a doubt that the universe was inside of you. And I find it very fascinating that we can look at some of the galaxies and how they look like a human eye, or they look like certain human. It's like they have human characteristics, but every galaxy is based on the golden ratio, the golden spiral, the divine ratio, the divine spiral. And what that is it is 1 to 1.618. And that's called the divine ratio, God's ratio. Look it up. You will be amazed. We have pi 3.141516, whatever, and it's all over the world. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, it's in the Great Pyramid. It's in distances between like Stonehenge and these large places, Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid and this and that. Although it's not apparent, but when you use certain mathematical formulas, equations, different different ways of measuring distance, such as nautical miles versus actual miles or kilometers, it becomes very apparent that the world, that the earth, the places on earth, were not just built haphazardly. They were planned. They were placed where they are for a reason. And then you take each place and draw lines, straight lines, to connect the places, and you find that there are buildings, there are, as I said earlier, cathedrals, churches, very large, impressive building sites, obelisk, that go right along these lines. And these are called ley lines that carry a charge. Power lines is, that's the best way to describe them. And these cathedrals, these places of worship, these megaliths, they were put there so they would receive power from these ley lines, from these energy routes. Some call them dragon lines, and it's amazing. I mean, it really is. And look up ley lines and look at the images, so like a map of the Earth, and you'll see how nothing. It's not like that. There's a place here, there's a place there, but it's really off. It's not really off. It's like a grid. It's like a grid that was purposefully and very distinctly made. So, anyway, the when we talk about DNA, DNA is really a recent thing. DNA was discovered in 1871 in Germany by Friedrich Miescher. I hope I pronounced that right. And dead white blood cells, and is a biological recipe for a human. Could that information also contain a mark of authorship or messages? So they go through and they find that it is. They find messages. They find the signature of the creator. And in closing, because we're at the 2-hour mark, in closing, I just want to say that we will pick up next episode where we're leaving off tonight, because this is amazing. It is a message basically saying, yes, I created you and all of you, and my name or my title or whatever is written in every one of your cells. They said 500,000 times, and we have, 10 trillion cells in our body. I mean, that's a lot of signatures. So, if you ever think that someone's not proud of you or someone doesn't love you, think again. You are more than you know. And I tell people that all the time. You truly are. And in this world, it's very easy to believe a lie and see yourself as being less or not being good enough or lacking this or that. That's not true. You have everything you need for what you need to do. I believe that we all have a mission, and I also believe that we all have everything that we need to do whatever our mission entails, what we're supposed to do. But what has been pulled on us, the wool's been pulled over our eyes, is that we are to find what we need outside of ourselves. Because the last thing they want, the last thing the powers that be want, is for you to look within. Why is that? Because when you look within, truth will be revealed to you. And then you'll have the same power they have, and they don't want that. And this isn't, something that I'm making up, or, I'm not pulling your leg. I'm not trying to make you believe anything. But thank you, Nazreen. But if you look at the world, if you listen to what the quote-unquote leaders say, those who have been elected because they're supposed to lead the people, excuse me, but you know what? I don't want to be led by certain people who the only thing they have on their mind is war and hatred and torture and pain and greed and malice. No, I'm not following them. I'm just not. They may be leaders, but someone like that, people like that, they're not my leaders. Thank you, but no thank you. I prefer to wear my own hat. I prefer to walk my own path. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I am sincere. And it's my hope, it's my prayer that no matter how rough or how mangled my delivery is of what I share, that each and every one of you can feel and can pick up that resonance, that it's just that it's sincere, and I mean that with all my heart. And what I've told people is I share my opinions. I share my theories. I'm not claiming anything to be truth. I would never do that. Instead, I encourage everyone to do your own research. I'm just putting things out there. And I leave it up to you to decide whether you accept it as truth or you reject it. And if you reject it, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Matter of fact, my hat's off to you. Why? Because you're thinking for yourself. And that's a good feeling. Matter of fact, that empowers you when you do your own research, when you think for yourself. And when I say research, I'm not talking about pouring through books and articles and all this, knowledge. I'm talking about simply going within yourself, talking to yourself, pouring over things in your mind, and then when you have that aha moment, oh, you're never the same. It changes you. And that's truth. That is truth. But anyway, tomorrow night we will pick up where we left off, and we'll continue this fascinating topic. And I just want to say that if the show, if you like the show, if you like the episode, please hit the like button. And for those of you that aren't yet following me on Spreaker, please do so. I have to have at least 100 followers before I will be eligible for iTunes. And if you would please hit that follow button, I would greatly appreciate it, because iTunes, when the show goes on iTunes, it will reach so many people that are like-minded, and many are, this is amazing, but many have written me and said that they feel lost, they feel different, they have their entire life, but they started listening to the podcast, and they're not sad anymore. They're not so sad anymore. That they feel like that they found their, that they found someone and people who understand them. And that's like Christmas came early for me. I mean, I just very, very ecstatic that what I do, and it's just me sharing, like I said, my opinions, my theories, and that's all. And for just that to empower someone or to lift someone up, even if it's just one person, that's amazing. And I just want to thank everyone who listens, and please continue to do so. Anyway, again, hit the like button, and please follow me if you're not following me already. Wednesday night at 9 p.m. I will be on YouTube live video. So write that down and join me there. It's the same, the Texas Live podcast. Just type that into the search and it'll take you right to the channel. So anyway, thank you, Nezreen. Thank you so much, and you are welcome, and love you, sister. So, love and light to you all. Love you all. Good night from Texas. See you next time.